All right, everyone. Welcome back to the show that shall not be named. Today's prompt is plump, and Mrs. Ramshackle made a request for a Totoro, and I figured he's a nice, plump little dude, so it would be perfect. So here we are, doing a Totoro. Totoro here is the first in a new series of drawings where I will be using a brush pen. I've been craving some nice dark black ink, so a good way to do that is to put a lot of ink down on the page, and a brush pen is great for that. I decided to kind of do this in the style of old school manga, which is appropriate for the brush pen, I think. And yeah, I'm just going through and doing an outline of him. I had a reference up on the screen, just a still from the movie, so it was a different scene than when he's standing at the bus stop, though. It was like a scene in a meadow or something. But yeah, I definitely needed a reference for this one. Kind of made it my own, though. I mostly just copied the teeth in the mouth and the proportions and stuff like that. So but yeah, I decided to come through with a thinner line for the outline, and then I'll bulk it up later. This one's going to be a little more painterly, I guess, or I don't know how to describe it. It's going to be less reliant on outlines, so I didn't want to worry about them too much right away. So yeah, old habits die hard. I started hatching and realized what I was doing a little ways in and grabbed the brush pen. This is a Pentel Fude, I think medium. I have very little experience using brush pens. I think I've used this one like maybe twice before, and it was quite a while ago, probably over a year at this point, so very new territory for me. But I really love that old school manga sort of look, and this is a good way to get it, I think. I think I ended up overdoing some of this. You'll see in a little bit. I kind of keep going when I should have stopped. But, you know, that's all part of the learning experience, and I will correct it on the next one. Yeah, right here is when I think it started to get a little overboard. But that's okay. I didn't hate the way it turned out. I just, you know, you always see your own mistakes more than anyone else sees them, so yeah, I didn't really like how the round shape of his belly was kind of rendered in this one. But I will change that in the next one. I decided to kind of tuck his umbrella back behind his ears because I wanted the ears to show. And then, yeah, it's going to be raining in the background, so I wanted to pull some streaks down and then make like a horizontal texture through the ground. And then, yeah, back to the fountain pen here. I'm going to start the hatching. I think I was trying to do that kind of really long hatching that they do in manga a lot. And then pretty much immediately switch back to short hatching. That's okay. I think it still, gets the idea across. I think the long hatching is one style of doing it, but there's so many different people who've, drawn comics and manga. You got to put your own flavor into it, right? So here I'm just going through and hatching texture into the ground, keeping it vague. And then more hatching in his little toenails there. I'm kind of all over the place on this one, to be honest. That's okay though. It when I'm doing something, when I'm treading new ground, it's hard to, have hyper focus like I would on something that I've done a million times already. So, and yeah, just doing some contour hatching here to kind of create the shape of his big old plump tummy. Plump tummy. This is kind of the part I was talking about. I didn't really like the transition between the hatching and the brush pen here. Mostly just on this part, and I think it's because I'm going to experiment with some different ways of doing it, but I think I could have gone across instead of in line with the hatching, if that makes sense. Or I could have just done more solid and less brush strokes through there. Might have looked better. Those are my two ideas to try out. And then if I can't figure it out from there, I'll go look at the way some other people do it. See what they did. See if I can figure that out, right? Mrs. Ramshackle and I like to watch the Studio Ghibli movies to fall asleep. And I don't think I've ever seen the end of My Neighbor Totoro. I've seen about maybe halfway, 3/4 of the way through it. I love the Studio Ghibli art style. And they're usually pretty calm movies, so it's a good one to throw on the bedroom TV. When you're going to bed, going to sleep. I gotta have something on while I'm sleeping because I got it ringing in my ears. It'll keep me awake at night if I don't at least have a fan or something. But Studio Ghibli movies work pretty good too. Probably a little better than a fan. Unless, of course, you've never seen it before and then you get distracted from sleeping by it. I think my favorite one is Nausicaa so far. And maybe I'll draw one of the... I forget what they're called. They're like these big... I don't know, giant insect sort of creatures. Maybe I'll draw one of those for one of these prompts. That could be fun. Let me know in the comments if you know what they're called. But yeah, I'm just cruising through here, doing all sorts of hatching. Just trying to pull out the shapes where I see them. Like I said, I'm kind of back and forth on everything through this one, so you'll see me jump from pen to pen. And right now I'm on the fine nib, but a second ago I was on the extra fine. I think I might be switching. Yeah, see, I just switched back, so... Yeah. I was just taking it, doing stuff as I saw it, right? And then, yeah, here I'm, trying to get all the shading right on the teeth here. Get him, those kind of molars pushed towards the back of his mouth, and then, accentuate the ones towards the front. And just, keeping the contour in mind the whole time. The tongue was a little strange because it was very flatly shaded in the... I mean, the whole thing was very flatly shaded in the cartoon. It's almost like he has a gray and tan sort of color to him, and then there's like, one other tone for shading. They don't do like gradients or anything. But yeah, so a lot of the stuff I was just making up as I was going along. If I was doing sketches and stuff like that, that'd make this a little bit easier. You'd probably be a little more symmetrical too. I try to kind of, it's almost like a sketching technique, but I'll use like little dashes and stuff and then kind of go back and forth on each side to get stuff as symmetrical as I can. But I'm not perfect at it. I've seen a lot of people who can just draw symmetrical stuff like it. There's nothing to it. And I'm kind of envious of that. Maybe I just need more practice. That's why anything that I feel like I'm not good at, I just, immediately my first thought is, I need to practice that more. I think that's a good mentality to have too. Like if it's something I'm scared of, I should probably do it 20 times in a row, That's why I always pick, I feel like maybe, I don't know if a lot of people would do this, but I feel like I see a lot of drawings of Totoro and his mouth is either closed or he just has that grin, but you don't see him a lot with his mouth open like that. And I think it's just because that's the more difficult like way to draw his mouth, and people get intimidated by it. And I like to, go for the hardest thing. I don't know. Like, if that's an option, instead of having his mouth closed or whatever, I'll try and draw it open. So, and sometimes it works out well and sometimes it doesn't. But, if it doesn't work out well, I'll, try again until I'm happy with it usually. There's some stuff like that, like figure drawing. I'm okay at. I'm not great at it, but it's one of those things I've done a fair amount of, and it's just very slow progress. So I'll, I haven't been focusing on it. Maybe I should focus on it a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just cruising through here, doing all the cross hatching and trying to make sure it's got that, old school manga kind of look to it. Almost wanted it to look like, if he was in the cartoon or in the Berserk story or something, And then with this hatching, I kept it very like vertical to kind of represent the rain falling down. I think it was a nice effect. When you're doing these long hatching lines like that, you can bust out a ruler or, try your hardest to keep them perfectly straight, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. It really is like, if they got a little wobble to them and all that kind of stuff, it, shows that it was drawn by a human. Like if you look at R. Crumb's stuff, he's got some pretty wobbly lines in there. So as long as you're getting your point across and you're consistent with your style, I think, whatever's clever goes. So yeah, just going around doing some little finishing touches here. Some little speckles in his belly area. And I think that about does it for this one. Oh, yeah, no, I decided to go over it with a little bit more ink right at the end there. I'm not sure it was really necessary, but I did it. So there you go. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. And thank you to my patrons on Patreon. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will see you on the next one. All right. Bye.